This is Zeiss Presents Full Exposure, the weekly resource for news, trends, and the people who influence the world of photography and cinematography. Hosted by veteran photographer and filmmaker Jim Kamp.
For Asif Rashid Khan, his love affair with photography began at age 14 when his father handed him a 35mm film camera. He never stopped photographing. Even taking a detour to get a degree and work in finance didn't sway him from realizing his dream to make a career in photography happen. He eventually took the plunge to work full-time as a photographer. He's now a partner in a multinational visual production studio. Hey, Asif.
Hey.
Thanks for coming in.
Hey, Jim.
Really great to meet you.
How are you?
Great. You have a really interesting story. When we talked before
I know. Yeah.
we met, we talked on the phone.
Exactly.
I heard about you, and I was like, oh, my goodness, where am I going to start? So, give us a little bit of the backstory about how, as a Pakistani, by your parents' nationality, I mean, are you a dual national?
So, no, I'm Kenyan.
Okay. So, let's just, head to the intro. But you're Pakistani.
Yeah.
But you're Kenyan.
But I'm Kenyan. Exactly.
How did that all come about?
So, my grandfather actually moved to Kenya when he was younger, in about the 60s, just about when Kenya was getting independence. So there were a lot of Asians moving from Southeast Asia to Kenya. So I moved. So they moved. Sorry. And then he started, working in Kenya. My dad then also, started a jewelry business. That's what we do currently as well.
Oh.
And that became our life then. Kenya became our home.
Hmm.
That's how I ended up in Kenya. But I grew up in a Pakistani home because the culture that I grew up in was Pakistani.
A large Pakistani community?
Not that big.
Nairobi?
Not that big.
This is in Nairobi.
A bigger Indian population. So Pakistanis are quite few, but again, a lot of them are doing business.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them control the economy a little bit, a lot of sectors of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I ended up in Kenya, being born there. But me being Pakistani and Kenyan means that I'm not Kenyan enough to be Kenyan, and I'm not Pakistani enough to be Pakistani, or I'm not American enough to be American.
Mm.
So I'm in this weird, mix of what they call actually now the third culture.
The third culture.
Third culture people.
Explain that.
I actually came across that in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, wait, we're going from Pakistan to Kenya to Japan.
Okay, I'll tell you that.
How did you end up in Japan?
How did you end up in Japan?
Briefly,
exactly, yeah. So I studied actually in Japan. I got a scholarship from the Japanese government to go study in Japan.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up in Japan. Love the place, beautiful people, most honest people I've seen, most beautiful cities I've seen. I visited a lot of cities there, lived there. So the third culture concept came, I believe, from the Brazilians moving to Japan, growing up in a Brazilian home, but in Japan. So they don't identify themselves as Japanese or Brazilian. So they became known as third culture. And then this year actually, I was in Lahore, and Riz Ahmed, the actor, was at Lahore Literary Festival. I went to the festival, and he also mentioned this, and how third culture kids are able to provide a very unique viewpoint compared to other, other kind of
sure. Yeah, makes sense.
So I think even the way I show pictures, this, what you see here is from Lamu. I show it having all those lenses on, right? I'm Pakistani, I'm Kenyan, I live in America, we work in America now. So all this is happening while this is from Kenya again. This is actually from what we used to call Instameets, organized in collaboration with Instagram in Nairobi. And we would pick up a location, for example, this was African Heritage House. It's a very cool property, which also houses really interesting artifacts from tribes around Kenya. So what we do is we announce that we're going here, raising awareness about this beautiful place, which nobody really goes to. And we brought about 200, 300 people here, all for the sake of creating art.
Mm-hmm.
So this was from there. This is a good friend of mine. He's also a photographer. This is from Kenya International Conference Center in Nairobi.
Really cool light.
Yeah. This was, I think, about sunset. He's also a great photographer, Mutua Mateka.
So let's back up a little bit and talk about your experience as being, you had obviously from, your bio, an introduction to having a camera in your hands when you were really young. So you had this young sort of passion that a lot of us do as kids, picking up a camera, taking pictures. Me was with an Instamatic or something. You with was it a film camera?
It was a film camera. Actually, my dad gave it to me. He gave me his camera, and I started taking photos with film. And I think that's what, led me to the path. Now, obviously...
But you were diverted a little bit.
Of course.
Because, yeah.
Yes. So, with art, always looked at as a profession where you really can't make any money until you actually start making money. And then your parents and societies, start supporting you. So that led me to do finance, a degree in finance, which, so that led me then to my work, which led me to join a bank where I was really bored.
Especially if you had this art percolating inside of you.
Yeah, exactly. I always wanted to, just make images.
So how long were you in finance and so forth till you decided to?
But at the bank, the interesting thing was I would work from morning 8 to 3 p.m. And after 3 p.m., I'd do all my other creative stuff. So I was organizing events for the community, something called Pecha Kucha. It's a concept from Japan where, we give artists a platform, 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide, and they just come and talk about their art.
It's like a salon type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was organizing.
Cool.
I was writing a blog on the side about innovations in the developing world.
This is while you were working.
This is while I was working
finance.
in the bank because I was like, this is where I'm attracted to.
Sure.
And I was taking photos every single day. So that never left me.
Just kind of blogging and stuff.
Yeah. But I think, then that happened. And then, the blog kind of got popular. And a company called Squad Digital, which was under WPP Scan Group, the largest marketing services group in Africa, reached out to me. And, so the general manager, then Gaurav Singh, who I really also admire as a person, and we're still in touch, he hired me as a digital strategy manager, which I didn't know what it meant because I'm from a finance background. But he saw something interesting, I believe. And my best friend at that time, he advised and said that, this would be the perfect opportunity because it's in a realm which you're comfortable with. And even if you fail, you'll have to learn something. So I continued with that, I grew with the company.
Mm-hmm.
The company grew from, one office to 5, 7 offices, in Africa. From 1 client to 40 clients. And I became business unit head in the company. WPP had bought into Scan Group.
So were you managing more than shooting and so forth there? I mean, not
I
just
never
shooting
left.
for yourself.
Yeah.
But were you? When did you start to shoot commercially?
I'll tell you. So way after that, it's actually when Instagram happened. So all these photos you see, these are what I used to do. A lot of them, why you see them at night, is because I'd worked until 5 p.m.
Makes sense.
So I'd go out into the city.
Do it, right.
So I'd go out into the city and just, say, hey, look. I'd go up to literally every building and ask the watchmen, the guards, could I please go up to the rooftop? And some of them would, let me go up. And this are all images created at night in Nairobi.
Is it digital or film?
No, these are all digital.
Okay.
So then I started making a little bit more money. So I was investing now in digital. I still shoot film though. I love film. There's nothing like film. But yeah, this was then. And when Instagram happened, I started putting these up on Instagram. And I started getting a little bit of popularity right there, because this was something that was never being shown. This side of Africa, and I say Africa because...
The side of, for the people listening that can't see the pictures, the side of Africa is what that you're saying? What were they not seeing?
The beauty, the development of Africa.
Of the urban
urban
side
landscape.
of Africa, yeah.
So this is Nairobi.
Of the continent.
Of the continent.
Not the country. It's not
No, it's not the country. Kenya is the country.
Yes.
So these are specifically from Kenya. But the reason I say Africa also is because this is the same story across Africa. This is happening across all Africa. We're a developing continent, but no one wants to show that side of it. So I took it upon me, and now so many other people do it as well, to show this side of Nairobi. Like, this is from one of the high rises in Nairobi.
Mm-hmm.
Those two towers, Nation Towers, it's an iconic piece of Nairobi landscape. Again, taken while I was still working full time. So now let's move into like the career bit.
So when you started, you were doing managing digital stuff.
Exactly, for clients,
but shooting for yourself.
But shooting for myself and just using Instagram as a platform.
Yeah.
So
had you worked in film as in motion pictures, video, etc.? You had yet?
No,
so
because we were still working for clients like Heineken, like KLM. These were clients, but we were managing a digital strategy, their content strategy. So I really look back at the time, and my best friend, my dad actually was my best friend, and his advice was spot on. I learned so much about the business side of things working in this place, and now when I look back, I look at it as wow, it really helped. So I started picking up work while I was still working in the agency, and I then moved to New York, and started consulting and shooting projects in New York. Now, when I was at New York, another company from Kenya, rising company, the largest restaurant group in Africa, came looking for me to head their marketing team. Now, it was great offer. Great financially. I knew I'd be stable for the next 3 years. I'd be able to build a base of which I can now start my own company, which is my aim always. So that happened then. I took that offer up, worked there 3 years. And then finally, in the middle of that term, I actually started my own company with my partner. So me and my partner own this company. We're registered, in Connecticut, in Nairobi. We've worked all across the world. We've worked in Japan, in San Francisco, in Poland, in Europe, in Dubai. A lot of work is now coming from America too.
How did you start working in making the shift from still photography to video and film? It
happened naturally. So while I was doing photography, moving images still excited me a lot more. So I started exploring it about the same time we started the company, which was about 2 years ago, and just started putting up editing. I learned editing myself, learned how to shoot myself, and again, just because I had a passion for it, I knew I'm going to learn this. So, and I know I'm going to get better as I keep on doing it.
Sure.
That's the only way this is going to happen.
That is, yeah.
So I just kept on doing it. I started putting up stuff on YouTube. I had by then a decent size of audience on Instagram. So I would lead them to my, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd get great feedback from there too. This is working. I would know immediately. Like, my storytelling also improved. Because I'm doing the own stories
Because you're doing it yourself.
I'm doing it myself.
But that's a big shift, going from doing it for yourself to doing it commercially.
Yeah.
So how did you make that sort of leap? Did that happen also organically, or just somebody happened to see, something that you put up on YouTube, etc.?
A bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened organically was when I was working for these companies and them doing their marketing strategies, digital marketing strategies, I started learning what they actually need. is different from sometimes what we were providing. So I knew there's a gap in the industry for great content, and especially in Kenya, in Africa.
In Kenya per se, or were
In
you
Kenya.
were you sort of moving around a little bit within the continent?
Within the continent too, like Uganda, Rwanda,
Mhm.
Tanzania.
Mhm.
These were all places that were needing, great content, and there were not enough content creators. So I knew if I could
tapped
do,
into that.
yes, if I could get if I could do a decent job, we could get a lot of work. So basically, that's what happened. Tapping into my contacts as well. People I had worked with, and reaching out and saying, this is what we're doing now.
Right.
And that's it. That's how we now have paying clients.
So you make it sound so easy.
It's I guess if you do what you love, at some point in life, you make things easy for yourself. Because it comes naturally. You're not working towards it.
So we have a couple of examples you brought in.
Yeah, sure.
We'll play some of this video, and then we can talk. Tell
we'll
us what
talk
we're
through it,
watching
yeah,
as
sure.
we watch.
So this is what I call the hidden treasure of Africa. Actually, a lot of people say that the hidden treasure of Africa, Lamu. It's a city.
Where?
In Kenya.
Okay.
It's a coastal city. So we were shooting a commercial project here, and I decided to create this film. So you see that house over there is actually
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful house.
The project was about the house itself?
It was about the house. It was specifically about the house, but I shot a lot more outside, into the Lamu town as well. Which
what was the client?
For a Adani house.
And it's a private residence?
So it's a resort.
Oh, it's a resort. Okay.
It's a resort,
Okay,
but
I
it's
was
a
gonna say.
private. It's owned by actually a French lady in Europe. She works
That's
for a big telco,
pretty
and she just bought it, and she stays there a month out of the year, and the rest is rented out. It's actually booked 4 months in advance.
So this was just to promote
Just
the
to promote
rental
it,
of
yeah.
it. Wow.
Yeah.
And you shot it in different formats?
In different formats, yeah. So
What'd you
I
shoot it in?
used primarily, full frame cameras, and then with drones and
you used drones.
yeah, and drones and like some footage. Like we were collaborating. So this guy right here is Sonak Shah. He's actually based in New York.
Okay.
He runs a project called Pursuit of Portraits. It's a global project.
So he was just happened to be shooting there when you were doing this, or he was working with you?
No, I brought him with
Oh,
me.
you brought him with you. Okay.
So he had come to see me.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing a project in Nairobi called Pursuit in Nairobi.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, look, I'm coming. I'm going to Lamu. Do you want to come? So that's what happened. Great guy. We also
Beautiful destination. My goodness.
This destination is beautiful. Everybody should go here. I promote it to every single person I meet.
And is the rental of the house very affordable?
It's about $500 a night for
Really?
for
That's
11
all, huh?
for 11 people. to
Which,
stay.
for people listening, looks unbelievable for $500.
And guess what? 11 people can stay in there.
Wow.
So imagine if it's 10 people. Let's say
So
you're
what-
paying $50 a night.
What body of water is it on? Not being familiar with the geography of where Lamu is.
I'm also actually not very sure of this. I don't want to say something wrong.
Oh, okay.
But this is the mangrove forests
Oh, I was gonna
near
say, it
Lamu.
does look like mangroves, yeah.
So the dhow actually takes you in the middle of those mangrove forests.
Hmm.
It's beautiful. This aerial photography was some of it was shot by my friend called Justin Lovett. He's actually American. He was also with me. Great guy also. He's also a filmmaker. Assisted by Jay. Jay is actually my business partner as well.
And how did you end up with that project? Out of curiosity.
They reached out to me, on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So Instagram has actually not just acted as a platform for me to put up my work,
Right.
but also for getting work.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah,
because a lot of people use it for promotion. You have how many followers do you have?
About 26,000 right now.
That's not too
Not,
shabby.
not too bad. Yeah,
Not too bad.
not too bad.
So, how do you think you got so many followers?
Two things. So Instagram itself, I did projects,
Mhm.
which we'll come to I think later in the stories bit. Stories like Abandoned Nairobi with a couple of friends that got picked up by Instagram blog, and they featured it in their profile, got a number of followers. But I think the main reason I've been able to build this decent audience is because of the viewpoint, of the stories I'm trying to tell, of the places I'm trying to show. These are places and things and people that not many people have seen. So it's attractive to, people. And also, the style you shoot it in is also important. And yeah, I think it's about art at the end of the day. I'm not doing it because, hey, I want more followers. I actually don't really care about the numbers. As long as few people get impacted by this art and start seeing places that I've been to differently. Like we live and come to my travel photography, and Lahore is a place I'm really passionate about. That's where my mother is from. And
do you have anything? I don't know if you brought anything with you from Lahore.
There is in the travel.
In the travel section. We have this up, so let's talk about this particular project.
Let's talk about this one. So, our clients at Monolith Studios is a company called Cave Architects. So they were doing a research project.
Cave Architects?
Yeah, that's what their name is. Cave. Actually, the name is Cave Bureau, but they're architects.
And set this up for us a little bit.
So this is me showing the journey to Mount Suswa Caves.
Which is where?
In Nairobi. In Kenya, sorry.
How
it's
far
about
from Nairobi is it?
1 hour, 2 hour drive.
Okay.
So that guy you see on the right over there is actually the guy who started Cave. They were doing a research project in Mount Suswa, which actually has 1 million-year-old cave system. So, and they're lava tube caves.
A lot of drone. Is this all drone?
This is some drone.
That looks like aerial. That looks really.
It is. Yeah.
Of this sort of lush mountainous terrain.
This is Mount Suswa. Actually, there's a part here called No Man's Land because no man's ever been there, and there was a few people who did try and they never came back. Right there behind you, behind those people.
Wow.
So this was our guide. He was.
So what was the project?
They were doing a research project, and I was shooting a film of this journey
for them.
Yeah. So I was just you can see a lot more. Like this is us walking up now to one of the high points on Mount Suswa. So we were hiking up
and
there.
What was the goal of this project?
It was so they were also doing a team building session because all these guys are from the team. I was the only one from outside. So you'll come to see a lot more of the caves, which is what we were there for in a bit.
Had you been there before?
No.
So it was probably pretty amazing for you just from a visual point of view.
From a visual point of view, from an experience. Like later on, we'll show you some bat caves where there's thousands of bats and it's hot as hell, I would say.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit for
right here.
Time's sake, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Like this is where the caves now start. But
how deep into the caves do you go?
Oh wow, you can go kilometers, but we didn't have. You see there, like we're showing you, that you can actually, if you want to access this place, you need to have gear, because now you can go under the caves as well, and they're actually professional cave expeditioners who actually come here for this, because this is one of the most beautiful cave systems in the world. And you see those ropes over there, ropes?
Yeah.
So those ropes are where you tie them. You tie your harnesses and you actually descend.
Rappel down.
Yeah, right there. So it's like several 100 feet down. We were not able to do that because we're not professional,
I was going to say.
Yeah, we're not professional for this. And this wasn't the objective. And there was some parts I was not able to record, especially in the bat caves, because it was so hot, humid, and there were thousands. Sorry, this is very interesting. I do want to talk about this. Baboons Parliament.
What is this we're looking at?
Every evening, baboons congress over here on this rocks.
Wow.
And these are man-eating baboons, by the way. So you don't want to be there when they...
Thank goodness they don't eat women.
People eating. Let's call it that. So they actually descend from the opening.
Did you see any while you were there?
No. Because we went at the right time, like when it was day.
When they were sleeping.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
So
wow.
So that's actually the very fascinating bit as well. They
That's so
congress over there,
cool.
and it's like their parliament. So they discuss, they argue, they do all this stuff.
It's so beautiful.
BBC has tried doing a documentary there, and I think the last time they were successful was like 30 years ago.
Is that right?
I mean, because the reason it's so dangerous. If they see you and they sense that there's somebody here, they're going to descend upon you and just rip you apart. Simply.
Well, if you're listening, you have to see the video because it's pretty
Yeah, these are all up on my YouTube as well.
All right, so we'll provide a link at the end of the show too. What are we seeing now? This is another video clip.
No, it's the same one actually.
Oh, the same one.
Again,
sorry. Okay. All right. So
yeah.
Okay. This is a different one.
This is a different
So
one.
let's talk about this. I think this is our last video clip. Let's talk about this for a second. Give us a setup for this.
Sure. So this is Laikipia. It's a beautiful place about, I want to say about 4 hours from Nairobi. And I was actually going with this guy called Bobby Neptune, who's American actually, aerial photographer.
What was the project? So
he quit his job. So let me set you up a little more.
Sure.
Because his story is actually very interesting, and I'd love to talk about it too. His fiance and him were training for paragliding.
Mm-hmm.
So a gust of wind came and actually killed his fiance early on this year.
Wow.
So he then decided upon him to start a book about aerial photography from Kenya. And he's decided to complete it then, he's going to complete. So he quit his job, this is me with him now. And this was in collaboration with Canon. So Canon
this was shot for Canon?
Yeah, they supported us on this project. So Bobby Neptune is actually this guy, this photographer. You can see he's going up on this paragliding motor.
And so he shoots can you explain?
So this
will help
paragliding,
me, and this will help people listening.
That paragliding motor?
What is that?
He straps onto it. His camera is on a harness, and you'll see him flying right now over here, because he's documenting.
So he can control where he goes, like he's a little airplane.
Right there.
Wow.
That's him right there. Now, the reason for doing this is because drones cannot go as high up as he can go.
Right. How high can he go?
He can go up thousands of feet. Thousands of feet. So you see, he's also talking about tributary ends.
Yeah.
Because when he went up, he noticed that actually tributaries come in. There's no outlet in that Lake Olbolsat. So it all descends down into Earth, which is also interesting. His main project is about water. I wouldn't be doing justice if I talk more about his project. He knows,
please do.
He's a lot more conversant with his own project, but it's a beautiful project about water and water behavior over a period of time.
So does he work with NGOs as far as documenting?
I believe
tributaries
and
so forth? Or?
This project is his personal.
It's personal.
He's self-funded. What he told me that he does commercial work to fund this project.
Pardon me?
He does commercial work to fund this project.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, to fund personal.
Yes,
we all do. Sure. Agreed. So this is Galman Mukutan Conservancy. Cookie Galman. Do you know Cookie Galman?
No, I don't.
She's a famous writer, and movies have been made about her.
Mm-hmm.
This is her conservancy. It's a 90,000-acre conservancy. She started up in 1970. So we went there to actually now set up camp for about 3-4 days.
I mean, what drones have done to be able to document stuff like this that, you used to need airplanes for it. I mean, drones really make this kind of footage.
I mean, these are like
much more rich.
These are like $2,000-$3,000 drones. You know what I mean? Not even very expensive drones, but good quality drones.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get that shot, for example, would have cost like Stanley Kubrick's. In the beginning of The Shining, that shot of he used a helicopter and a camera.
Right.
Hundreds of $1,000s.
Gyro. Yeah.
That's me. And then you'll see credits for the team that actually worked with me. So aerial photography was by Sam, assistant camera Brian, Opening sequence idea was my partner and supported by Canon.
Great.
Yeah, so this conservancy, is also a very interesting project because they've been doing it for over 40 years. So yeah, that was interesting.
So let's talk about your travel passion.
Cool. So I have been to about, the last I checked, because I have this app called Swarm, which you check in,
Right.
and it gives you, I think it's about,
Forget about passports. Open Swarm.
I open Swarm. I think it's about 50 something odd cities globally. But this now, what I brought to show was a subsection. So this is Marrakech. I'll tell you a very interesting story. If you see this photo, you might notice that it's not me pointing directly at the person, because guess what? People in Marrakech do not like being photographed.
So do you ask permission, or do you just do it sort of furtively?
So permission, they don't want to be photographed at all. I try to find out why the reason was for that. I wasn't able to get the reason, but so I was trying to do more candid, just street shots.
Mm-hmm.
This is New York, one of my favorite cities I've been in. This is also very interesting. I'll tell you why. This was the day America elected Trump. It was the same day I was here, and I was shooting actually at night, and the voting had just ended, and the results had started, coming in. I was on Brooklyn Bridge at 2 a.m. This was about 2 a.m.
Yeah, I recognize the struts.
Yeah. This is a great friend of mine, one of my inspirations as well. His name is Jose Silva. He's a photographer from New York, Venezuelan origin. This is Willie B. Williamsburg Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
This is again, the metro. I love these guys because it just shows, kind of the passion doesn't stop people. Because these people are literally in the metro, playing music for passerbys.
Is this New York?
This is New York.
Okay.
This
Because
is
when we
New
say
York.
metro, I think of Paris.
Oh, yes, sorry, yeah. Because if you notice that the roof, that's Fulton Street.
Okay.
That's Fulton Street. It's very iconic as well.
New York again.
This is New York again. One of my best friends, Saad. This, can you believe, was shot with what camera?
Your iPhone?
Yes, with anamorphic lens.
Oh, with an anamorphic.
With an anamorphic lens.
Why isn't it stretched?
Because you de-squeeze it.
Oh, you de-squeeze it.
Yeah.
It's funny is if you take away the background, it could be anywhere in the world.
Could be anywhere in the world. Which is what is interesting about New York as well, right?
Except for the old 60s era Impala in the background.
Yeah. I just so this I had gone to shoot a commercial project in Dubai. Sorry, that's actually on the bottom right is actually my signature.
Okay.
It's just my watermark.
I almost said it was KL. I almost thought it was Kuala Lumpur, but
no, this is Dubai.
City, but you see this on Apple. It's one of the Apple cityscapes on the screensaver.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really
yes.
cool shot.
The Apple, the moving, the video.
Yes,
screensaver, yeah.
right.
So
where's that from? Where'd you shoot this from?
So this place, actually, I want to also give them a shout out, Shangri-La Hotel, because they actually gave me permission to go and take photos from their rooftop. So I stayed there for about 3-4 hours, shot time lapses, shot photos. This is the Sheikh Zayed Road. This is how Dubai came to be. Through this center road. You see the center road just going?
Yes.
That's how Dubai came to be.
It almost looks like something from Blade Runner.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's one of my inspirations.
Yeah, was it really?
For photography and cinematography. Blade Runner is one of our
Which one, the original one or the
both actually in terms of cinematography.
Yeah.
Obviously the original one is way better, but cinematography
it holds up. The original one holds up. What are we looking at now?
So this is Lahore Badshahi Masjid. It's one of the world's biggest mosques, and this image is the favorite photo I've taken ever, because it showed it from a different point of view. I shot it at sunset, and there was a lot emotionally that when I went through, because I was going through a lot of things when I took this picture. I just love this image for what it is. Just people walking through the mosque.
It's beautiful. The light is
Thank
nice.
you.
Yeah.
This was the same day, but as the light was going down further, the blue hour, same mosque, again, one of my favorite images of Lahore ever.
Where's the light coming through that the people are backlit?
So it's these lights they have at night, which they light up some corners. But they closed the mosque also pretty early. So this was about closing, and they were like telling people to get out. Yeah. So
let's skip ahead to
stories.
This
is a story actually that also was picked up by Instagram, and they featured it on their blog.
Oh.
It's called Abandoned Nairobi.
Who are we looking at here?
So this is actually a friend of mine called Peter. He also actually worked for me at Java. I hired him to work at the Western Group as a content creator. So we actually created a studio in-house. But he's a great friend of mine. Abandoned Nairobi was basically looking at abandoned places in Nairobi with stories. This particular place that we're in, and you can even show some more images. One more, you can, like this place that we're showing here was supposed to be a maternity hospital. Pumwani Maternity Hospital.
Was supposed to be? What do you mean?
But it's abandoned now because of corruption, because of a lot of things.
You mean it was built as a hospital and then it was never never opened?
Never opened, never completed. 400 people could be served here, but corruption, we wanted to highlight that bit. Why do we have this abandoned building which could serve so many people? And when money was already allocated, So these are the things I'm very passionate about too. So even if you go to like the hashtag Abandoned Nairobi, you'll see a lot more other places. So Skaters of Marrakech. While I was shooting in Marrakech, I came across these two guys, who were the guy on the right.
What's the room we're looking at?
Okay, this is a very interesting story too. It's a photographer, I forget his name, but he's also photographed Madonna. So this Riyadh, as we call it, the houses in Marrakech, has now become a place where he sells his art, showcases his art, and also, just opens up for places like for cafes, and you can go have a drink there, tea and all that. So these guys came with me here just to visit the place because it's an iconic place. And they're also skaters. Now, the interesting thing about these photos, the next few photos, is actually we're skating in a mosque.
Really?
Yeah. Now, that's the mosque right there.
Oh.
So, as soon as you see that door in the bottom.
Cool shot.
You see that door in the bottom, in the white, housed by the white?
Yes.
Now, that's the door. When it closes is when they can quickly do what they want to skate. And then as soon as it opens, we have to scatter. Because there's no spaces built now. But when I was there, actually, the king of Morocco was actually opening up the first skate park.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a very
because of demand.
Because of demand. And these kids, like the other guy in the picture, the white guy, Czech guy, he's from Czech Republic. He's actually doing his PhD on how skater culture has, I think, changed the youth in Morocco.
In Morocco.
Yeah. So I mean, I would like to put a disclaimer that he would be better placed to explain his PhD.
Okay.
I hope I did a little bit of that justice.
Well, this picture is interesting juxtaposition because you see this mosque in the background with a skateboarder in the foreground wearing looks like a Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah. So they actually also took me.
Hat.
So they actually also took me to a flea market. So that hat they would buy them from flea markets, and they would get like Coca-Cola written in German.
Yeah.
So very old Atlanta Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
And this was then we were just ending the skating session. So a great people, great place to visit. I think everybody should go to Marrakech also, just to experience the culture. Yeah. So
what you touched on it a little bit earlier. you've made so many leaps and bounds from going from finance to photography as a more or less a hobby to working it into how you work. And what were your inspirations all along the way, or who inspired you?
Firstly, my father. He was a person who believed truly that if you want to do something, you should do it with your full heart. My mother's also, I just recently found out that my mother actually is also a poet. She writes a poem every single day.
Wow.
For like the past 20, 30 years. Whatever she's going through, she's written a poem about it.
Do you ever put any of her poetry on your Instagram?
She hasn't allowed me to even look at it. Yeah.
Oh, no,
yeah.
really?
She says, this is my work.
So it's just, she just writes
I think it's
for
very
herself
personal.
personally.
I think it's very personal. But I think it's also like she's probably going to tell us about it a little more. So my parents, for sure, have inspired me a lot. Photographers like Joel Meyerowitz, the film photographer. He's an amazing inspiration. I remember seeing a documentary about Jim's Nutway, the war photographer. And that literally, I wanted to, take my camera and just go tell stories from, war-torn places. It was so inspiring. But I was in the bank, so.
That's when you were still in the bank.
But again, it made me think that, if you want to really do something, you'll find a way to make it happen. So for me, it was, how do I make this leap in the best way I can, in the best way that I know. And now that I look back, joining the dots back, if I hadn't gone through that journey, I wouldn't be where I am right now, So I really appreciate every single step I've taken in my journey to bringing me wherever I'm. Even sitting here with you, it's meant to be in a way. You know what I mean? But again, it has to come deep within, from your heart, whatever you're doing, and has to be true to yourself. You can't be doing it because you saw something interesting and said, hey, I'm going to become a photographer tomorrow. It takes years of work. I've been photographing since I was, 14. Many years, I couldn't photograph because it was film. There was less access to film. And then when I started really getting my digital, and especially the phone, I started taking photos every single day. Because I knew I'm going to get better at this. And I'm going to make it what I want to do for the rest of my life. And this is where I am now.
So what's the future hold for you? I know you mentioned something about a project in Lahore.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this project. So, we own a home in the old city of Lahore, near the Badshai Mosque, where I was showing you the Badshai Mosque earlier. I wanted to see what I could do with this home and how I could bring the artist community up in Lahore who do not have access. Because I've been through a similar situation, right? Where, the society doesn't understand what you're doing. So how do we get these people who are really passionate about what they want to do, but don't have an outlet or don't have a platform? So I want to convert this house.
Or potentially not even equipment.
Even equipment. Agreed. 100%. Even access to equipment, you're right, in these countries is so damn tough. The cost and everything. So anyways, I do want to convert this home into a home for artists, into residency. So when I recently visited Marrakech, I actually got even more inspired by what people were doing in Marrakech. So the houses in the Medina area of Marrakech are very similar to the old city of Lahore. In fact, if I took a picture in Marrakech and Lahore and told you the either one of the other was the other one, they'd be interchangeable. So what has Marrakech done right that Lahore has not been able to? Very simple. The people in Marrakech, actually foreigners, a lot more, French, Belgian, they've seen the potential of. So a lot of them have been converted into riads for people to stay in, like tourists. But a lot of them are also artist residencies, because a lot of people do want to know about the history of Marrakech, and they're doing projects. So where do they stay?
Mm-hmm.
So Lahore is similar thing. A city full of you have all the points. A city full of history and culture. A city where this kind of stories are available, but it doesn't have infrastructure. So how do we, as people, build that infrastructure? So I want to either self-fund it or get funding for it.
Well, that was gonna be my next question.
Yeah.
How you? I mean, it sounds like a great idea to have a gathering place for artists and emerging artists and so on. But how do you get it funded?
So the good thing is I already own the home, so at least the first step is done.
Right.
Now it's about renovating, making sure you market it well, and that's where my history as well comes back. My career, all that I've been through. Now, there's two ways, and this is what I learned in Marrakech. One is it's funded by outside agencies, so it's funded by Swedish embassy, funded by all these different governments that are interested in the arts. They fund it. You just provide a platform and put out a call out for artists to come and stay there. Done. The other way, which I think is more interesting, is where it's self-funded. So you make sure you bring up everything.
Right.
But from outside, say foreigners who want to come in and do research projects in Lahore, you provide a safe place for them, a decent place where they can come, have fast internet, have a place to stay, and be in the midst of all the culture. And what they pay you becomes what subsidizes the cost for local artists. So I can provide the platform for local artists for free, as long as these other people are paying me for 6 months.
When do you think you might be able to kick this off?
I've thought of June next year.
Wow.
Yeah. So because the house is, it's ready, I literally just have to spend about 3 to 4 months, setting it up, and making sure, we can launch.
How would you get the word out?
Interesting. I mean, I have a little bit of my own platform, I've built online. But I believe I also have a good network outside of it, where I can just reach out to people and say, hey, we're starting this. And, in Lahore, the community, our family has actually a decent bit of, I could say, clout in Lahore. So, word in the local community especially can spread quite easily. And, partnering through with agencies like universities, partnering with agencies that are supporting a lot of arts, like, Goethe Institute, German, that's why I mention Europe a lot is because they invest actually in Kenya too, a lot in the arts scene. And, so I'll give you another example. That same Riyadh in Marrakech was also creating films and content for brands that wanted to do it in Marrakech. So there's lots of different revenue streams actually that you can build through this residency. And, but remember, the origin always has to be authentic. It is for the artists, local artists.
Right.
And that's when everything else will fall through. Or else it just crumbles. Or else it's just another business.
Are you starting to document this? Because it sounds like a great project to have a documentary done on it, the birth of this.
Oh, the birth. Great idea, man, Jim. I think I will do that for sure.
Okay.
I think it makes a lot of sense also.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
I think maybe you could do it, and then when you come back, show it to us.
I think that'll be a great story arc, right?
I mean, if you're really on that quick of a path, come back. That would be great. That sounds like a really exciting project.
And I mean, even in America, there's a decent community here that would be willing, to do this in Lahore and support it. There are a lot of Pakistanis here. There are a lot of Americans, a lot of different cultures that do want to experience a different culture.
Yeah. Sort of like an exchange type
exchange
of thing.
program. Yeah, exactly. So I believe the potential is huge.
Is it just sort of centered around photography and film, or is it
no, any art,
any kind of
art,
visual or performing art, or
no, more visual art.
Visual art.
The reason I say that is because that's what I also have a little bit of experience in.
Sure.
But obviously the focus will be film and photography. You know, that's where my strength would also come in, you know, having been in the industry, how I can also support them. I'm already starting to work with a lot of Lahori creators. So, you know, trying to see how I can get them work while they're in Lahore, you know, get them work from Africa, from America, from Lahore as well.
Do you have any kind of presence for this project now? Any kind of online or mobile?
Nothing yet.
Social presence?
Yeah, not yet. But you'll be among the first ones to know.
Great.
I think
because we'd like to help spread the word too.
Thank you.
Worthy.
I mean, I really appreciate that.
Sure.
That's one huge project I'm really passionate about.
Well, I think that might be a good note to wrap up on, because it sounds really exciting. It sounds like it going to have a lot of positive impact locally and internationally, and the whole exchange aspect sounds great. Yeah. Wish you a lot of luck with it.
Thank you. And you know, I mean, my company's still there. I mean, we're still making revenue through Monolith Studios.
Yeah.
We're also doing quite a bit of interesting projects with that, especially in the VR space. So,
tell us
I'll tell
briefly about that.
So quickly, you know, there is one of the best heart surgeons from England who works in Kenya. We're working with him to come up with a curriculum on how beginning people who are studying to be heart surgeons can actually operate on a heart without having to operate on a pig's heart, but do it with VR. So these are the kind of projects that, you know, we're interested in also.
And you also have some. I know you mentioned, you know, CARE is a client of yours.
CARE
as far
International.
as NGO. Are there any other NGOs that you're working with?
Not right now, but it's a space, you know, that we will explore. CARE is actually our first client in that space.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we just signed them on actually from Atlanta. So, you know, that was one other reason I was here in America for.
Cool.
And then, you know, but we're creating films for them in Kenya. So
when is that? When are those projects starting?
Next month, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, next month. So it's as soon as next month.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing a lot of that.
Thank you
really a lot for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim, and thank you, Zeiss.
Sure. And we look forward to hearing the progress, especially. Do you have a name for the project, for the
Lahore
artist
one?
residency program?
There are a couple of names that I'm...
Okay, nothing yet, though.
Nothing concrete. I really wanted to reflect what I'm feeling. So there are a few names. Like I'll give you one name, which is Awam. Awam means the people, or like the community. That's one potential name that I'm thinking of. But as soon as, you know, when it's concrete, branding is done, and, you know, I'm probably going to self-fund it for a little bit, you know, try to get work going, and then start looking for outside funding.
Cool.
And, you know, just kick it off. That's what I want to do, because June is, you know, it's just 7-8 months from here. Yeah,
it's a pretty ambitious time schedule.
Yeah.
Wish you luck with it, and really look forward to hearing more about it.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us next time for another edition of Zeiss Full Exposure. If you can't watch, you can always catch the audio-only version on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Zeiss_Full Exposure or on the web at ZeissFullExposure.com. And to learn more about the latest in Zeiss lenses, head to Zeiss.com.